Crash Bandicoot. Now this is a franchise I have a lot of nostalgia for. Despite having numerous iterations and being thrown around a lot between multiple developers, this Orange Boy was initially the product of the wonderful Naughty Dog, a company that went on to make many more iconic titles after working and developing on the original Crash games, namely Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, and The Last of Us. They have a really great track record of amazing games, and the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy still to this day sticks out and leaves a great mark on the 3D platforming genre, despite his various ups and downs since then. He did certainly make a great comeback in 2017 though, with the amazing Insane trilogy, which remade the original games. Even though this is now arguably the best and most definitive way to play the original games, I do still enjoy going back and playing the PS1 versions. They're very nostalgic. So, which of them is the GOAT? Which Crash Bandicoot game is the most GOATed? Going all the way back to before I was even born, we of course have his introduction to the world. A very good introduction in my opinion. The premise was straightforward, the gameplay was easy to grasp, the characters and animations were very expressive and recognizable. It was just a decent all-around foundation for what was to come. Here we're immediately thrown in to see Crash washing up on the beach after being subjected to Cortex's Cortex Vortex, a vortex Cortex wants to use for the context of brainwashing animals to become his minions for world domination. Which failed, leading to Crash's escape. Because of this, Cortex decided to use his Cortex Vortex on his girlfriend Torna instead, who Crash sets out to save, leading us back to the beach. As far as the gameplay goes, it is very straightforward. All Crash has in his arsenal is a simple run, jump, and spin. And that's it. It wasn't the most innovative 3D platformer, but what sets him apart are firstly, the unique visuals and graphics of course, and secondly, the insane difficulty of some of the levels. For a game that basically only consists of running, jumping, and smashing boxes, it can be very unforgiving, with its tight platforming, depth perception, Crash dying in one hit without Aku Aku, annoying boys you can't hurt, oh, and don't even get me started on the gems and 100% completion. Ooh, now this gives me shivers. Some levels are also just way too long in my opinion. Looking at you, Sunset Vista. Fucking hell man, this stage just drags on. And it doesn't help that the only way to actually save the game is by either collecting a gem, typing a password, although I wouldn't really count this, or finishing a bonus round. Hey, wait a minute, I thought they captured her. Huh? This is such a weird method of saving, especially since you only have one shot at actually doing the bonus rounds, so if you fail, well then I hope you've stacked up on plenty of extra lives at least. Though I suppose you could collect the gems in order to save, except this requires you to break every box in a level, and to not die once while doing so.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
This is another really bizarre thing about Crash 1. You supposedly only have to not die for the colored gems, but the strange thing is, if you die in any level, not only do the boxes you broke respawn again, but it makes absolutely no difference anyway because once you reach the end, you'll just get taken back to the level select screen rather than this screen telling you what you have or what you missed. Like, what? What? Yeah, fuck that man, seriously. Do I really want to do stages like Slippery Climb or The Lab or fucking Sunset Vista without dying once? Absolutely not. Although, saying that, I did still end up 100% in all three games on the Insane trilogy anyway, so yeah, I guess I can retract that statement. But to be frank, if it wasn't for this, I would consider Crash 1 to be a relatively standard platform experience. Take away all the bullshit, and I can have a good time. But the bullshit is still there, so yeah. And what I think makes all of this even more bizarre is the fact that the reward for 100% completion is very anticlimactic. If you do manage to get everything in the game, you can essentially just skip the final boss. Just do a bit of jumping and Torna's right there. Yep. I do think it's interesting, especially because I don't think I've ever played a game that has this type of ending, but it is rather peculiar. Anyway, in order to achieve this, you have to break all the boxes in each stage, without dying once I remind you, so that you can collect all 26 gems in the game that enable you to jump to Torna in the Great Hall, with the 6 coloured ones granting you access to areas in certain stages that you couldn't get to before. Although this does provide a level of replayability in certain stages, sometimes it just feels like it needlessly pads out your game time, making you go back to levels just to break a few extra boxes. Thankfully, one saving grace about all of this is of course the GOAT, Aku Aku, who shields you from most hazards and enemies and grants you a temporary speed boost and invincibility if you manage to collect 3 of him. Although, admittedly, this isn't a luxury that I often had the chance to utilize because, well, yeah. I've always loved having Aku Aku by my side. It just feels like you have a buddy who's always looking out for you. It feels wholesome, even taking aside the fact that he shields you. Anyhow, there are also some stages in Crash 1 outside of the regular 2D and 3D platforming ones, where you're either riding a wild hog or running from a boulder against the camera, though these are very few and far between admittedly. And finally, you also have all the boss fights which aren't anything special. None of them really stand out to me. They're pretty basic and fairly easy, but I mean, they get the job done I suppose. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Crash 1. The last thing that I think I'll mention about it is that it's very creepy. Like, holy shit, man. Cortex looks so menacing here. This is supposed to be a kid's game? I don't think so. God only knows how these guys ended up here, and who let this guy out of the mental ward. Man. I do like this game as a whole, despite it not aging that well in my opinion, but the overall vibe is just very unsettling. I don't know how to put it into words. Basically the complete opposite of the next installment in the series, Crash Bandicoot 2. Now this game feels much more wholesome and cozy to me. And not only that, but it was also a vast improvement.
Crash Bandicoot 2. Cortex Strikes Back. Press start to begin.
Where do I begin? I guess I'll start off by saying that, you can save normally. Oh yeah. You can retry the bonus stages as many times as you need. Oh yeah. You don't need to complete most of the levels without dying to get the gems. Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to celebrate the size of this W.
I'm gonna keep it 100. Crash 2 is miles better than the first game. It still has its moments, sure, but as a whole, I enjoy it a lot more. It has better gameplay, better stages, more freedom, more characters, more variety, and better music in my opinion. Crash now has a slightly upgraded arsenal, with the new duck and crawl, the body slam, and the amazing new slide, the last of which being my absolute favorite addition out of all the Crash games. It has great utility and is very satisfying to do, especially with the slide jump, allowing you to jump higher with extra airtime and speed. The game also gives you much more freedom and has less linearity than the first game. Although the Wumpa Islands level select had its charm, the warp room is much better in my opinion. It's more concise and lets you actually choose what level you want to do first. Don't feel like doing Snow Go yet? Do Hang 8 instead. Don't want to do Cold Hard Crash because it fucking sucks? Well, do it later on, and I really like this. It also has much more variety in its levels, with more gameplay elements than the first game, while still retaining its platform and identity, like these boats, the new nitro crates, these burrow thingies, dreadful ice physics, and the space levels, which feel a bit strange to control, but they're okay once you get used to it. We also now have cutscenes throughout the game, mostly where Cortex convinces Crash into collecting crystals for him to enslave, save the world from certain doom. What a great guy, huh? It's nice that he's finally turned over a new leaf and is trying to save the planet and be a good person. Surely there's no secret agenda behind this, right? There's no way he's just gaslighting Crash into collecting crystals for him, right? Right? But yeah, throughout each level you have to find and collect these crystals, although find is a bit of a stretch to be honest. You have to be quite dense not to notice them, as the game pretty much just straight up lays them out for you in very easy to spot places. Of course, we also have the returning gems, which aren't as much of a pain in the ass as the first game, and the reward is more satisfying in my opinion.
We are ready, Crash. you like to do the honors?
Yeah. Crash 2 is simply way better than Crash 1, and I've made that very clear. However, there is one thing about the game that can be so rage-inducing it makes me want to fucking puke, and that's the backtracking. Oh, fuck it. This game loves backtracking. Fuck's sake, man. Granted, if you're just playing the game normally, it is genuinely a great time, like I said. But goddammit, the journey for 100% completion can still be a pain in the ass. It's not as bad as the first game, but it can still be horrible in certain levels. Cold hard Crash. This has got to be the single worst designed level in a 3D platformer. Repulsive ice physics, horrendous backtracking, and this absolute piece of shit box that they decided to hide in the bonus round. Why would you do this? Why? This level hates you so much it straight up gives you the middle finger. I hate this level, man. That aside, I do think there's more to like about Crash 2 than there is to hate about it. It is easier than the first game, and actually the boss fights are still just as pathetic if not more so, especially the final boss, like what the fuck is this shit? But this doesn't necessarily mean that the game is worse because of this. All the quality of life improvements and additions, as well as the overall vibe being much more nostalgic and cozy rather than feeling like a horror game, turns Crash Bandicoot from a basic platformer that I enjoy but can take or leave, to a household name that is right up there with some other platforming icons. And this also rings true and carries over to the next and final game of the original trilogy, Crash Bandicoot 3. And I'd say it's about time we warped right on over to it.
Crash Bandicoot 4! Press start to begin.
Crash Bandicoot 3. This was actually the only one of the original trilogy that I remember playing as a kid. I only played the other two quite a few years later. In fact, I think it may have actually been one of the very first games that I remember playing ever, all the way back around 2006 or 7 I want to say. Crazy how nostalgia can take you back in time like that, the same way that this game takes you back in time literally. The vibe of the third game still retains that cozy and nostalgic charm that the second game had for me, while introducing several more new gameplay mechanics and additions to flesh out the experience. Of course, we have the return and spin, slide, and body slam, as well as the same quality of life improvements and better music that the second game had from the first. But there's also now new power-ups that you unlock as you beat each boss fight throughout the game, which actually I think are a bit better than Crash 1 and 2. They feel more fleshed out, and even have their own dialogues before you fight them, which I always thought was cool. It gives them more charm.
Crash, I really am cross with you. I'm just trying to do my job, and you go and cause all this chaos.
Ooh, that doesn't sound right.
Crash! Coco! Store the pretty crystals!
That's better. Anyway, back to the power-ups. There's the much appreciated double jump, the death tornado spin, which can be quite useful actually, the AP fruit bazooka, which just disintegrates every and any enemy, and once you beat Cortex for the first time, you get to run faster, which is mainly there for the newly introduced time relics, which are fun for some stages but an absolute pain in the ass for others, especially if you want to get the platinum relics. Fuck that, man. Fuck that. If you're into speedrunning, then this is probably right up your alley, but I don't particularly get enjoyment out of it. Don't get me wrong, I respect the hell out of speedrunning. It truly is a great art form that takes an insane amount of dedication, and I can definitely see why people get so invested in it, but personally, I couldn't care. To me, it's just not that fun, and doesn't feel very rewarding. I did all the relics to 100% the Insane Trilogy, and it was by far what I hated the most about it. I don't ever see myself taking speedrunning seriously. Dying 100 million times just to shave off a few milliseconds for a slightly better time isn't something I find very appealing. I do think the time trials are a cool addition that adds some replay value, and they can be fun for some stages, but I just don't care enough to obsess over them. Platinum relics? Not for me, fam. I'll stick to breaking boxes and collecting gems and crystals. I prefer to go at my own pace with this kind of thing. And I'm glad that you only need the Sapphire relics to unlock more stages and get the true ending. Speaking of, moving on to the actual stages themselves, we now have even more variety in terms of the settings and backgrounds, as all of the levels incorporate and take elements from different cultures and periods of time, ranging from the dinosaurs and ancient China, all the way to futuristic looking levels and Area 51? Crash 3 also features more types of levels outside of the basic platforming, such as the underwater, jet ski, airplane, and motorbike levels, most of which I actually enjoy, although apparently they're pretty divisive among people who have played this game, particularly the motorbike levels due to their weird controls.
Fucking move!
As a whole, I do enjoy the platforming stages more, but I don't think these ones are bad. If anything, they add a bit more variety, which I can happily accept, since they don't interfere with my overall enjoyment of the game. Oh, and we can also play as Coco in some of these levels now too, who I forgot to mention in the previous game, giving her a bit more of the spotlight. By the way, what happened to that battery she asked Crash to get for her in the previous game? Did she end up getting one in the end? It was never mentioned again.
Bring an extra battery for me.
Perhaps she simply got fed up with waiting and decided to look for one herself. The same way newcomer Uka Uka got fed up with Cortex in his opening monologue, who, as it turns out, was the mastermind behind everything, which really undermines Cortex's character and his position in the previous titles. He went from menacing in the first game to a comedic punching bag from this game onwards. I do think I prefer his character like this though, although that's probably because this is how I was introduced to his character when I first played Crash.
Maybe I should retire to a nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
Yep, they really went there. I've always loved this joke, and appreciate it more now as an adult.
Nice.
Big bags of ice. Yeah, boy.
Okay, well, given everything I've said and covered so far, I think this is a good time to start warping this up. So, which Crash game is the most goated? Definitely not the first one. Honestly, I think the fact that Crash 2 and 3 exist is the main thing holding the first game together. It's not a bad game, it's decent enough on its own, with great visuals and a lot of charm, but I would never choose to play it over the other two. I just don't think it's aged that well, and compared to its successors, it leaves quite a lot to be desired. So yeah. But, with that out of the way, I guess it all now comes down to this. And I simply cannot decide. I love both Crash 2 and Crash 3 a lot. They're both amazing games. I do have the nostalgia bias towards 3 because it was the first one I played, but Crash 2 is also really, really good. I know a lot of people prefer 2 because it has more platforming stages, and that's fair enough, but I think 3 is just as good and well, I believe this is the first time in this series where I don't have a definitive answer to the title of the video. So be it. They're both the fucking goats.
Break out the butter. I'm gonna make toast.